Let's get up on our feet. Let's get up.
The Earth is warmer in 1988 than in any time in the history of instrumental measurements. These are the words spoken by James Hansen to the U.S. Senate 30 years ago. 30 plus years of silence and complicity and inaction, and now the crushing visceral weight of an existential horror story being taken willingly onto the backs of children not yet old enough to vote. Our society's leaders have been and continue to be inert and unapologetic as the ravages of a disaster they stood passively for grows increasingly, terrifyingly tangible. They seem unable to accept the reality of the fact that the industrial and economic system from which they so amply profited is directly responsible for the deterioration of our living world. They will, after all, be long gone by the time the havoc they have so carelessly stricken descends in full force upon the conveniences of everyday life for their children and grandchildren. When faced by the cries of the youth, demanding acknowledgement and rapid system change, the responses of such leaders and corporations remain uniform in content. Denial, useless movement toward green capitalism, and most importantly, the message to sit down and shut up. What needs to be understood is that we are not asking. We will not step away and carry on and silently observe as our entire economic, social, and political infrastructure turns its back on the future of the youth. We will not become corporate puppets. We will not allow for our own uncertain future to be crushed in the hands of those who have told us in action time and time again that our hopes are invalid, our demands unrealistic, and our protests futile. If all continues as is, we will reach the 1.5 degree mark around 2030. Emissions must stop now. The money is there. The time has been spent. There are no excuses. Nothing can be said to soothe our anger at the fact that our future may cease to exist because our predecessors felt that it simply wasn't worth the inconvenience, felt that we, their children, simply weren't worth the trouble. As Greta Thunberg, the face of the youth climate justice movement, has communicated time and time again, we are sacrificing our future for you. We are sacrificing our education for you. We are forfeiting our childhood for you. We are standing up because you have taken a seat in a burning house, our house. So listen to us, listen to the science, and listen well, because there's something to be said for the fact that we, the young, and all of our assumed inadequacy and oblivion have united when you have not. Thank you.
It's always right and never wrong. Our leaders are the finest men, and we elect them again and again. And that's
Hello, Missoula. Thank you, Maeve. My name is Everett, and like Greta says, I don't want you to be hopeful. I want you to panic. I want you to feel the fear I feel every day, and then I want you to act. So that's what we're here to do. Act. Today, in solidarity with millions of students, youth, and terrified adults across the globe, we take action. It's time for us to speak clearly. Why are we striking? We strike to disrupt the capitalist system that is destroying our planet and taking away our futures. Capitalism ignores our planet's ecological limits, and it cannot abide by those limits. It has to go. We strike because For far too long, our education system has made us complicit in reproducing the status quo. This system is not preparing us for an unavoidably radical change to everything. We stand in front of a world map. Today, we are not alone. I was checking out my Facebook feed this morning, and I saw Greta's page, and it is amazing. It is. We are not alone. Apparently, the unofficial number in Germany right now alone is 1.5 million people. That's incredible. I have the privilege of standing on stage with some of the most extraordinary young people I have ever met. And we are here to share our story, our fears, our panic, and our hope. I'm here to represent Missoula Climate Strike, a group of students, youth leaders, and concerned adults who have been meeting since July to put this rally together and this strike week together. And in just a moment, we get to hear from some of these young voices and come to understand why today is such a pivotal moment in our history. Over under the pavilion here, we have tables with information about topics we think are relevant to the events of this coming up strike week. Katie's over there. Katie is an educator, has particular insight that we found so valuable in our exploration of how the education system is failing us. And we think it's important that she share those insights with you. Will's over there too. Will has been essential in lending perspective and helping students and youth look at the alternatives to a system that is stealing our future and destroying life on Earth. Today, he's here to share and discuss those alternatives with you. And Dave's over there. Dave has helped us speak more clearly about the crisis that we are in, and like Greta says, we don't have time to speak politely. Capitalism will destroy our planet and life as we know it if we don't act now. And lastly, Danny is over there to help us unite behind the science and understand it. We are not experts, and we don't have all the answers. But one thing is clear, and it has been for many years, and that's the science. And we need to unite behind the science. Danny's over there under the pavilion to help give some information that we think is vital to understanding our impacts on the climate. And, lastly now, Andy. Andy is over to help us plan our strike week. Missoula, this is a week of strike. We are striking for our futures and to disrupt the system. We have events happening Monday, all week, starting on Monday at the university and all over Missoula. Andy's there to help you plan with your schedule and hopefully get you out there. Get you out there, not hopefully. You're gonna show up. We're going to show up. And please, sign up. Get involved. Our next speaker, Walker.
What did you learn in school today, dear little boy of mine? What did you learn in school today, dear little
All right, thank you everyone for being here today. This is so crazy. I didn't expect this many people to be here today. This is just so wow.
Wait, Walker!
Thank you, Darren. So my name is Walker Winterbrand. I'm a junior at Big Sky High School. And I'd like to start by sharing a little bit about myself, if you will. I cry every time I see a cute dog. My favorite songs from a Disney Channel original television show. I'm a cross-country runner, and I hope to one day be able to run a 6-minute mile. We'll see about that one. As of this Wednesday, I celebrated 1 year and 7 months with my girlfriend, and she's the only reason I'm able to show up to anything, anytime. And I'm sharing all this seemingly useless information because I don't want this to be another speech you listen to and forget about. I want you to hear my words and think about who I am as a person and what my life can come to, because I know you are all just like me. We all have our crazy goals, all of our wild quirks, and people who make every day worth living. Unlike other generations, though, we may not get to live out our dreams as we see fit. because climate change has become a crisis now more than ever. Our planet is dying quicker and quicker every day, and there's not much time left until the end. We have 10 years left until the damage done is irreversible. 10 of the past 13 years on record have been the hottest. The ocean's acidity has risen by 30%, and that's enough to destroy the oceanic food web as we know it, leaving 1 billion people who rely on seafood hungry. Every year since 1994, we have lost 400 billion tons of our glaciers. That is an ice cube 7.5 miles long every year. The Amazon rainforest is being burned to the ground by people, and if we don't do something about it, that may leave the entire world in a drought. I could stand up here all day listing fact after fact after fact, but the fact that matters the most is that our planet is dying. We are killing our planet, but there is hope. If you take action today, there is hope. Learn the facts about climate change. Educate yourself and others. The more we know as a society, the more we can help. And go to your lawmakers, educators, parents, whoever you see has power to change the world and get them to understand the crisis we are in. As young people, it's hard to get our voices heard and understood, but that does not mean we are powerless. There is such strength in numbers that if we all band together and speak up, they cannot ignore us. After this rally ends, I don't want you to go home and live life as it was. Learn and make change. Join us all of next week and every Friday moving forward to strike. And we will strike until our demands are met. Please consider joining us. This is such a monumental movement. It's such an important one. We are deciding the fate of our planet, and we can't do it alone. We all need each other. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Walker, for sharing your story. That was amazing. Our next speaker today, Rosie.
Who's pissed off? My name is Rosie Powers. I go to Hellgate High School, and I'm striking for the climate. I have 0 credentials besides being a Missoula high schooler. I'm capable of understanding how dire the situation is, and I stand behind the scientific consensus. Now I and my generation need the scientific community to stand behind us. We are withholding our consent to be taught by teachers and a school district that do not take seriously the ecological destruction of our living world. We are joining with students across the globe who can no longer accept the lack of leadership and courage demonstrated by the adult world, and in this case, educators. We are deeply saddened that the burden of fighting for a livable future has been left to children, and we look in particular to the adults of the scientific community to transform our system. Despite the overwhelming scientific consensus that our future is hurtling toward catastrophe, our education seems more interested in preparing us to compete in an outdated labor market that will soon be left stranded, like many assets, by climate change. It is absurd that we students are supposed to sit, listen, and put our trust in what is being taught while the world around us unravels. We refuse to just sit and listen any longer. We reject a curriculum designed to reproduce the same system destroying our planet. Missoula County school districts will try to tell you they are taking appropriate action, but they fall short to confront the root issues and causes of the climate crisis. Our future is being stolen from us, and we won't comply. We demand the knowledge necessary to confront the many crises our generation will have to face. Frankly, the real education lies in seeing how our local school system and the adult world has failed to respond to the writing on the wall. Who are the brave scientists among the Missoula scientific community? It is time to take risks. It is time to, as Greta says, leave the charted area, get off the map, and do new stuff. Support us. Help us make our school administrations nervous by calling them and speaking clearly about our dire situation.
embolden local scientists and others to urge their classmates to participate. We need everyone to get involved. We need the scientists to aid us in saving our planet, saving my future. You're pissed off? Do something.
Thank you so much, Rosie. That was amazing, and thank you for sharing that letter to the scientists of our community. Our next speaker today is Matt.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for coming out. I hope to see you all in the following days. My name is Matthew Giacone. I'm an environmental studies student at the university. And I'm here with all of you today for fighting for environmental justice in order to attack the climate crisis that is going on right now. As an environmental studies student, I am blessed to be taught by amazing professors that have a strong love for the natural world. They have provided me with information and knowledge of world issues such as climate change that our K-12 educational system has failed to do so. One of my favorite classes was Nature and Society by Professor Dan Spencer. Dan's goal for the class was to have us see the relationships we've had with the natural world throughout human history, as well as grow in our own relationship with it. The main point taken out of the class is that human society does not live in harmony with nature anymore, but treats it as if it is ours to take. The unfortunate truth has led us to this global crisis. One way we can see that this is the fact that not 1 cent goes back into the environment when purchasing a product. We know it has an effect. The product needs to be made, then shipped some more to finally reach its final destination, all of which took fossil fuels to make. Looking deeper, why don't the vast majority of humans recognize their ignorance to the natural world? Why don't people recognize that the price does not add up to the cost? This is as much of our home as our individual homes we go to every night. As stated by environmental activist and poet Gary Snyder, nature is not a place to visit, it is home. This brings me to a major point of humans needing to grow their individual relationships with nature. A term I love to use is ecological consciousness, or as defined, a way of thinking and living with the natural world that respects plants, trees, animals, and insects, to rivers, oceans, soils, and air. It is unacceptable that our main reason to stop using plastic straws is to save the turtles when all of the ocean species are suffering. It is unacceptable that we feel so strongly about saving the bees when they are not the only pollinator and not the only species to be affected by climate change. According to scientists, we lose an average of 200 species a day, which is now leading us to the 6th mass extinction Earth has seen, the last one being 65 million years ago when the dinosaurs died off. It is time to start changing our narrative and language to one that includes all of the beautiful diversity that lives with us. It is time to truly recognize what the Earth does for us, because without it, there wouldn't be an us. This is a very simple concept to grasp onto, but one that takes time to grow into. With this growth, you will find beauty in the simple things, love in the difficult times, and peace in your heart. The price simply does not add up to the cost, and that must be changed now. I encourage all of you next time you're on a hike or what have you to do what I do and take a second to reflect on the joy and peace nature brings you. Then give thanks to the natural world for making it possible, because when you view the world with an attitude of gratitude, you are training yourself to focus on the good in life. I will leave you with a poem called Your Relationship with Nature by Francis Duggan. Your relationship with nature speaks volumes about you. Do you only see nature as a means to financial gain, or are you one of those who love nature for her beauty and love her wildlife and her trees, and her rivers, lakes, and mountains, and her fields and flowers and bees? Your relationship with nature tells of the sort of person that you are. Do you see nature's protectors of those who have gone too far, in their dispute with the developer, in their fight for every tree, If this be so, you support the environmental vandals, or so 'twould seem to me. Your relationship with nature about you more can say than all of your friends and enemies can, or so 'twould seem that way. For your apathy to nature tells of your inner strife, and your attitude to nature is your attitude to life. Your relationship with nature says far more about you than anyone else of you can say, as their words may not be true. For if you love Mother Nature and live in harmony, then you are working for the good of all humanity. Thank you and world peace.
Thank you so much, Matt, for sharing with us. Ladies and gentlemen, Missoula students, youth, terrified people. This is a week of strike. We're striking for an entire week to fight the system that is stealing our futures. Okay? You need to show up next week and get involved. There are plenty of clipboards. We need your signature. Sign up, give us your information. Get educated and learn about the crisis that we find ourselves in today. Real quick, I'm going to give you a little bit of insight of one of our speakers. On Monday, we have David Klein. David Klein is a mathematical physicist with a PhD from Cornell University. He's a professor of mathematics at the California State University Northridge, where he is also the director of the Climate Science Program, a NASA-funded educational program designed to prepare students for careers or graduate work in climate science and related fields. He is a member of System Change, Not Climate Change, and is the author of the ebook Capitalism and Climate Change, The Science and Politics of Global Warming. Show up to David Klein's talk on Monday at the University of Montana. Please, if you need more information about the strike week, go under the tent and talk to Andy. Andy has all the information you're looking for. Thank you so much. Our next speaker is Olivia.
Hello, my name is Olivia Vesevich. I'm a junior at Hellgate High School. The adults tell us that the future is in our hands. They tell us they are so excited to see what us young people will achieve. I'm excited too. Look at us now. We are a powerful generation. We have power in the climate change emergency, but so do the adults. The adults cannot give up hope and say, I'm ready for you young people to save us. That isn't how it works. There should not have to be student climate activists. We should not have to be missing school right now to get adults to do their jobs. It should not be left to young people to save the world, but right now, it has been. This is going to take everyone trying their very hardest. We should have been able to count on the adults to take care of this emergency, but they haven't, so we demand a voice in our future. And this is exactly what the school strike is about. I look forward to seeing you all next week and one Friday every month until real change occurs. We are young, we are panicking, and we are demanding real change. Everyone here cares about the climate, otherwise you wouldn't be here. But we need to spread awareness of the dangers, since not everyone is educated in the climate emergency. We need to unite behind the science. We need to let our friends know that according to a recent study, just 100 corporations are responsible for 71% of global emissions. We need to let them know that the fires in the Amazon were started on purpose to make room for cattle. We need to let them know that the U.S. military is the world's biggest producer of greenhouse gases. And after we let our friends know, we ask them to join us in the fight. We need them to join us in this fight. We need to work and organize and fight until we can live on a healthy planet with healthy ecosystems. We cannot give up. Adults cannot give up and wait for us to stop the climate emergency. We are here right now because the adults are failing us. Our governments are failing us. Our governments are failing to enact real processes to stop the climate emergency. The corporations are failing us. The corporations are failing us by putting their profits over our future. Humanity is failing us. Humanity is failing us because we have grown complacent in our capitalist society. Our complacency in accepting minor changes and platitudes will be the end of our lives. But we will not be complacent anymore. I want to end with some powerful words from Greta Thunberg. You can use your voice to raise awareness about this global crisis. You can help turn individuals into movements. You can help us wake our leaders and let them know that our house is on fire. We live in a strange world, but it's the only world that my generation has been handed. It's the only world we've got. We are now standing at a crossroads in history. We are failing, but we have not failed yet. We can still fix this. It is up to us.
Thank you so much, Olivia. I'm going to keep telling you and talking to you about the strike week next week and all the events that are going on Tuesday. First, all of these talks and events are happening in the UC, on the university campus, okay? They're in different rooms, and those room numbers you can find on our schedules over under the pavilion. There are pamphlets with all the information you need. Just ask for Andy, and Andy will help you out, okay? On Tuesday, we have Jeff Mann. Jeff Mann is the director of the Center of Global and Political Economy, Simon Fraser University. His teaching and research concern the politics and the political economy of capitalism. He is particularly interested in the ways that the state attempts to address political, economic, and ecological crises. The policies it develops, the ideas and politics that shape those policies, and the historical and political economic conditions that make these ideas make sense. He is the author of Disassembly Required, a field guide to actually existing capitalism, our daily bread, wages, workers, and the political economy of the American West. And in the long run, we are all dead. Keynesianism, political economy, and revolution. That's Jeff Mann. He's going to be talking at the UC. He'll Skype in and he'll be at the UC Theater. Thank you so much. Our next speaker is Nick.
How we doing, Missoula? Are ready to strike? I'm Nick Shepard. I'm a student at the university, and I'd say I've probably had a pretty typical education. Used to be global warming was just another thing, another scientific process like evolution or the carbon cycle. I knew about the greenhouse effect and that seas were supposedly rising from brief, fleeting references to either or both in science classes or literature from other classes. but it was always posed as this abstract, far-off threat, something that may or may not end up mattering to me personally at any time in the future. I was indifferent. And I have no doubt that millions of young people across this country and planet, failed by their education systems, were similarly ignorant and unaware of the disaster lying before them. Never was the all-encompassing, deeply entrenched nature of the climate crisis discussed in detail, let alone the radical societal changes which would need to be undertaken to prevent total catastrophe. Any school teacher who themselves understood the scope of the situation would have, I'm sure, seen severe backlash from administrators, where they'd even try to make a dent in our rigid indoctrination to a capitalistic, growth-at-all-costs economy. Jump forward to a few years ago. I started to see the fires in California increasingly brutal and destructive with each passing season. Texas and Puerto Rico utterly desolated by hurricanes Harvey, Irma, and Maria. And the scientists screaming, when will you understand that this is only going to get worse? That quote-unquote normal years are going to become few and far between, and society as we know it will come to an end. Their words seemed to fall on deaf ears the world over. And I was scared. Scared as hell. For a solid year there, I was just another sad, complicit liberal. A static liberal, if you will. I retweeted messages about how damn evil Trump was for repealing Obama-era environmental protections, however little good those did. I would shake my head when I'd get a CNN notification about another oil pipeline getting the go-ahead, and it stopped there. Like, literally, I figured, hey, I don't eat meat, and I retweet some environmentalist shit sometimes. And with that, I was able to sleep at night, I guess. And yet that deep, nagging anxiety never really left. What changed things for me was seeing the real impact that people power can have on our democracy. Seeing groups like Sunrise and like the Missoula climate strike rise up and say, no, damn it, this is it, you're done, to politicians all across the country. Seeing young people just like myself and much younger get involved on a scale never seen before. The hope that had all but left me began to be revitalized. But more important than hope, I got pissed off. Pissed at a president who can't or won't differentiate weather from climate. At congressmen who, upon hearing reports of record heat through the month of July, say it's summer. At a Democratic senator from our state, I think you probably know who I'm talking about, John Tesla, who panders to his fearful base about the woes of the climate crisis one day, and then pockets fossil fuel money the next. And perhaps most importantly, at a culture which holds true that infinite growth on a finite planet is not only possible, but paramount. Some of you are probably familiar with the stages of grief. Well, I'd argue that my feelings on the climate crisis have gone through a set of stages of their own. Indifference, fear, and rage. I'd be willing to bet that none of you are probably still in the indifference category, just by virtue of your being here. And if you are, you sure won't be after a few more of these speeches. Probably a lot of you are in the fear category, and that is an important one to go through because fear is a hell of a motivator. But now, it's time to get mad. I want you to be enraged like you never have been before because your futures and your kids' futures are being stolen. Go to your local leaders, school board members, anyone with the power to act on this crisis, and relentlessly bombard them until they crack or their asses are booted out of office. Check out our table to see how you can get involved under the pavilion before you leave. And in all strikes to come, not just this week's strike. Talk to your coworkers, friends, fellow churchgoers, anyone you can, and get them involved too. Greta likes to talk about how she doesn't want your hope. And I couldn't agree more. What we want and desperately need is fury. Thank you.
Hell yeah, Nick. That was fucking awesome. Missoula, remember, this isn't about skipping school. And we mean that. This is a strike week to change our futures. This is why we planned our own week of education, and we wanted something else that no one else was bold enough to do. So please come join us, get involved, learn about the events, and sign up under the pavilion. Our next speaker, Bree.
Hello, my name is Brianne Stoop. I am 17 years old and I am a senior this year at Hellgate High School. Today I will be reading a speech by Greta Thunberg because I think it is important to share the words and message of the girl who inspired many of us to get up and be here. But first I would like to share with you a quote from one of my favorite books, This Changes Everything by Naomi Klein. A great many of us engage in this kind of climate change denial. We look for a split second, and then we look away. All of you here today, I encourage you to continue to look. I ask that you do not arrive at this rally and then move on. Allow this to be more than a split second for you. Continue to strike with us this week, and beyond that, continue to fight in any way you can against the horrifying injustice of this crisis. This is an excerpt from a speech that Greta read to a bunch of celebrities at the Golden Camera Film and TV Awards in Berlin this March. We live in a strange world where all the united science tells us that we are about 11 years away from setting off an irreversible chain reaction, way beyond human control, that will probably be the end of our civilization as we know it. We live in a strange world where children must sacrifice their own education in order to protest against the destruction of their future. Where people who have contributed the least to this crisis are the ones who are going to be affected the most. Where politicians say it's too expensive to save the world while spending trillions of dollars subsidizing fossil fuels. We live in a strange world where no one dares to look beyond our current political systems, even though it is clear that the answers we seek will not be found within the politics of today. Where some people seem to be more concerned about the presence in school of some children than the future of humankind. Where everyone can choose their own reality and buy their own truth. Where our survival is depending on a small, rapidly disappearing carbon budget, and hardly anyone even knows it exists. We live in a strange world where we think we can buy or build our way out of a crisis that has been created by buying and building things. Where a football game or a film gala gets more media attention than the biggest crisis humanity has ever faced. Where celebrities, film, and pop stars who have stood up against all injustices will not stand up for our environment and for climate justice because that would inflict on their right to fly around the world visiting their favorite restaurants, beaches, and yoga retreats. Avoiding catastrophic climate breakdown is to do the seemingly impossible, and that is what we have to do. We live in a strange world, but it's the world that my generation has been handed. It's the only world we've got. We are now standing at a crossroads in history. We are failing, but we have not yet failed. We can still fix this. It's up to us. Thank you.
Let me show you what I mean. I'm anti-Republican.
Thank you so much, Bree. Amazing words from Greta, the girl from Sweden, the 16-year-old that every Friday by herself went to her Capitol building and was started striking for her future by herself. Missoula, look where we are now. We're doing this together because a girl from Sweden decided to take action, and that's where we are now. That being said, adults in the audience, I'm talking to you now. Please do not use today, what we built today, for your own gain. Stop. Please. Do not use this rally or next week as an opportunity for yourself or your organizations. Please listen to us and ask us how you can help without taking that credit. Stop. Our next speaker, Gemma.
How y'all doing? Hi, my name is Gemma Sladich, and I am a student at the University of Montana. There are so many things in life I want to do and accomplish. Like, for example, go to law school, maybe run for political office, have a family, travel the world, and many more. I'm only 19 years old, so I should have plenty of time to achieve these things, right? Well, with the climate crisis upon us, my time to live my life to the fullest is running out. One of my greatest wants in life is to have children. It would be such an amazing thing to have kids and raise them to be good, caring citizens of this world. But now, with the threat of climate chaos upon us, it feels wrong to want to have children. If we let the climate clock run its course and nothing is done to mitigate the crisis, we will be living in a near future that we as human beings know in our minds to be apocalyptic and dystopian. We will be experiencing things such as rising sea levels, frequent heat waves, the extinction of more species, an iceless Arctic, the continued degradation of coral reefs, frequent flooding, and extreme food shortages. So of course, I don't want to bring new life into a world that is on its course to destruction. I wouldn't want anyone else, even unborn, to have to live in a world like the one I described. It is so hard for me to come to terms with the fact that I may not be able to have children, and that truly angers me. Nearly as much as I want to have kids, I want to travel and see the world. In particular, Ireland would be a place I would really like to see someday. But now, when I think of flying there, I feel an immense guilt. I know that my action of getting on a plane is contributing to the climate crisis, it's stealing carbon from underdeveloped countries, and it contributes to the destruction of the world I don't want to live in. I and all the young people didn't do anything to cause the crisis, and I know I most likely won't be having kids, and I won't be able to travel the world without feeling guilty. What maddens me the most is that the bulk of the climate crisis wasn't even caused by my peers and I. It was the adults, CEOs, those who are mainly white males, and politicians who are and were supposed to be taking care of the earth but failed miserably. I am beyond pissed that my life, which is just getting started, may be cut short. I didn't do anything to deserve this, and now it has been left up to my peers and I to clean up the mess. Out there somewhere is a CEO of an energy company or an oil company sitting in his high-rise office. The money is flowing and they are raking in cash, cash, and more cash. They have no problem with what is happening to our world, so as long as they are getting paid. I don't even know this hypothetical CEO, and I hate him. I don't even know most politicians personally, and I hate them. I hate them for not taking action, for not watching out for us, for not seeming to care about the climate crisis. I despise them for stealing my future, for stealing my want of having children, for wanting to see the world, wanting to have a successful career. Although I am feeling beyond enraged and angry, I haven't lost all hope. Deep down inside of me, there is a glimmer of faith trying to shine through. It isn't over yet. When I close my eyes, I can see a livable future where no human is struggling to live. Although some damage to the climate has been done, it's not as bad as we thought it was going to be, or as bad as it might be, or it's going to be. I am able to live out a wonderful, wonderful, fulfilling life without the threat of it being cut short. I want that. I want everyone standing in this crowd to have that. I don't want anyone to suffer the consequences of inaction. Since the people who are supposed to do their job, but apparently can't do shit, it is up to us to push them towards action. There is still time. There is still time. If we act now, we can mitigate and control the damage of a climate crisis. Our house is on fire, so we must demand action from politicians, CEOs, and adults who have failed us, and tell them now is the time to save the earth before it's too late. Join us. We will be striking all of next week and every single month on a Friday until shit gets done. This isn't the end. This is just the beginning. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Gemma. That was brilliant. And next I have the privilege of welcoming to the stage, to the mic, excuse me, an incredible poet who just recently I've gotten to know, and they're here to share some shit with you. Valen.
Yeah, that's good. Hey, my name is Valen Anthos. I'm a former graduate student and an aspiring law student, and I'm here to share a spoken word poem called Eco-Essentialism. To love nature in these times is to be in mourning almost exclusively and to fight like a cornered animal. Most days I feel a quiet devastation that has become part of living in the 21st century. I don't have hope like some positive outlook, some belief in a better future most of the time. I just have pure wild fight, a commitment to the good that pulls me out of bed and into the thick of it to engage in a fight for this beautiful, cruel earth that I love. This town, this place, this life expands and fades before me and shoves my nose into the dirt where it belongs, where I was born, where I will end up in eternal restlessness if I don't do everything I possibly can to make this world less shitty than when it was handed to me. From genocide to ecocide, this world rips itself open and exposes scars that run across the globe, through my veins, into my skin, and squirm inside my brain at night when I can't sleep and I can't ever explain this desperation to another living soul, even though we all feel it. We can't talk about how we hold the world, our pets, our loved ones to our chest and cry from the madness of it all, about how living in a world where buying a burger connects us to the rest of the world in blood makes living seem both impossible and easy. It's so damn easy, I want to scream every time I walk into a grocery store. Every time I buy something online, it appears at my door. I wonder if I really need it, if I really need anything, if most humans really deserve to keep living at this point, if the earth wishes we would just leave already. I try to breathe, I try to count my breaths, but I hyperventilate. I hyperventilate because what else can you do when your house is on fire and people keep acting like it's fine, asking what fires if they can't smell the smoke and see the flames, and maybe they can't, so what do? No one taught me repair on an earth scale. No one taught me what life outside this endless capitalist wasteland could be like. No one prepared me for this world, and now I'm an adult, and now I'm supposed to fix it, and I don't know how. And do I dare to dream about anything other than destruction? Yes. because I have to, because the future isn't here yet and we'll never know what we can do, what will happen if we end our complacency and try to build a different kind of society. Just because it's never existed doesn't mean it isn't possible, and we're never going to get there in our quiet despair alone. So together there is power, together there is possibility, together there is always a better future to fight for. Forget this divided, individualistic drivel telling us to take shorter showers and recycle our plastic. They tell us that because they're scared of true community, of true solidarity, of coming together in a way that has never before graced Western society. So let's show them.
Thank you so much, Fallon. Students, I know it's around lunchtime right now. We do have sack lunches, bananas, and local apples and pears under the pavilion. If you're looking for some food, please go help yourself. On Wednesday, this coming week, at the UC, Richard Smith will be having a talk. Richard Smith wrote his UCLA history PhD thesis on China's class structure and the contradictions of market reform in China. He held postdoctoral appointments at the East-West Center in Honolulu at Rutgers University, New Brunswick. He's published articles on the Chinese Revolution, China's transition to capitalism, and capitalist development in China's environment for Against the Current, New Left Review, Monthly Review, and the Ecologist. He has written about capitalism, capitalist economic theory, and the environment for the Journal of Ecological Economics, Capitalism, Nature, Socialism, Real World Economics Review, TruthOut.org, Adbusters, and other media. He published Green Capitalism, The God That Failed, World Economic Associated Press 2015, and is now completing a book on China's engine of ecological apocalypse. He is a founding member of System Change, not Climate Change. If you want to come listen to Richard Smith talk on Wednesday at the UC at 9 o'clock. Please be there. Next speaker, Lily.
Hi, my name is Lily Hickok, and I'm a student at Sentinel High School. I am here today for the start of multiple climate strikes and have a few words I'd like to share. So first, here's a poem I wrote and then a speech on this issue. As I sit in a room, my body aches, my chest burns, my eyes are empty, and my voice is gone. Each breath is shortened and tries to escape my lungs like a bird from a cage. But the cage is locked, and I cannot be free. Why have people before me locked the cage? I am a young bird wanting to live among the trees and clouds above. But our home is on fire, and I cannot fly on. How is it fair that us young birds are locked up in a world that we've been brought into? A world where people no longer know how to live in harmony with the natural world. The earth gives us everything. So why do we just keep taking and destroying all the beauty that gives us life and a place to wander? Ever imagine all of that being gone? I do every day, and I'm afraid. But instead of letting my fears control me, I will no longer sit still. I will no longer stay quiet. Neither the smoke in my eyes nor the flames in my feathers will get in my way. For my voice is rising. It is now stronger than ever. It is time to take soar, time to fight for everything, from above the trees to below the seas. It is time to fight for our future, fight for our home. I've always had a deep connection with nature. I grew up being a shy kid that had trouble talking, but I always remember having a true sense of self when I was among the trees. The outdoors was a place where my imagination would run wild, and I was no longer just a shy little girl. I was a girl full of spirit, always pretending I could talk to animals and plants. The freedom I felt running through forests, climbing trees, hiking mountains, and swimming in the ocean was a freedom that I would always seek. It was a freedom that became my home, and I guess ever since then, that love for the natural world has stuck with me. Here I am today, never knew that as a high schooler I would be striking for the protection of our home. But it is a truth that we should all realize and start acting upon. Earth is a unique, beautiful planet containing over 8 million different species. It is a place full of countless life forms all connected with one another, creating sustainability for life. Humankind is the only species that can effectively control and protect the environment, yet the multiple generations before me are the ones responsible for the upcoming mass extinction due to their actions that harm speciation in Earth's ecosystem. These actions are depriving biological diversities that humans and life in general depend on. How is it fair that my generation and further generations now have to suffer and pick up the mess they started? They tell the youth to stand up for what they believe in and start making a change. But now that we are, they still will not change their actions because they do not have to worry about their future. It is a selfish mindset, and I wish they valued my future and their kids' future way more. As I hope you all know, the inspiring young activist Greta Thunberg is someone all ages should listen to and strive to be like. Not too long ago, I watched a video of her talking about how her eyes were first opened to climate change when she was about 8. She had difficulty understanding why such a small amount was being done about it. A few years later, she started falling into a deep depression and even started eating and talking. Once Greta realized that she could make a difference, she started the School Strikes for Climate, and look where that has gotten her today. Her bravery, strength, and passion is something I look up to, but what really made me inspired by her is how she was able to pick herself up out of her depression. I am someone who has high anxiety, and you could say I carry the weight of the world on my shoulders. Nature is my therapy, a place where my body and mind can be healed. So obviously the destruction of the natural world brings me fear every day. But if Greta was able to turn her fears into powerful activism, so can I. If I can be a part of the change, then who cares about missing a small fraction of my education? Because this is true education. Being a part of the action and saving our future is what I truly care about. And right now it's about time that every single human starts caring too. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Lily. That was an amazing poem, and thank you for sharing with us. Missoula, the tables under the pavilion are at the request of Missoula students because we think that the information that we have, that the adults will share with you today were so vital and valuable to our exploration of this whole process and why the system, our education system is failing us. You need to learn too. Please go learn and educate yourself under the pavilion. My next speaker today, good friend of mine, Danny.
Hey everybody. I just wanted to, everybody close your eyes for a second and take a moment to understand that this is Salish Kootenai land that we're standing on today, on this concrete, on this grass. And let's all just take a moment to really be here in the moment and feel your breath of air coming in, and then inhale, and then out with the exhale. We're all breathing the same air worldwide. My name is Daniel Carlino. I'm a student at University of Montana here. And I am running for the Public Service Commission for Climate Justice, but that is not why I'm here today. I was born in 1997 in the US. They would tell us growing up, the sky is the limit here. This is the best country in the world. In 1997, there was 364 parts per million of CO2 in our atmosphere. By the time we were born, there was enough CO2 in our atmosphere to bring our planet to a warming that will kill 90% of life on Earth as we know it. 90% of species are set to go extinct by the time that I was born. In 2002, we started school. At school, every day, we would be told again, the U.S. is the best country in the world, and we're glad you're here, and this is quite the opportunity. All 12 years of school, never heard the word climate crisis thrown around in class, let alone never talked about any of the solutions to climate change. Our educational system completely has failed us. We were lied to by our country. We've been ignored by the media, and all of our politicians have failed us. We are in a war. We are in a war with the United States government for climate justice. And we're in a war with our state government and city government. And starting here in 2019, we started a no fossil fuel money pledge campaign in Montana. Simple. We're in the middle of a climate crisis. These people should not be taking money from the fossil fuel industry that sways their opinions, that brings us deeper into this mess. And with some of my friends on stage here, we've gotten about 10 of our politicians in Montana to sign the No Fossil Fuel Money Pledge from all across the aisle. But for all 10 of them, there has been another 10 for each one of them that has said no. No, we want our oil and gas money more than we care about defending our climate, our public health, our families, our future. No, I will not sign a No Fossil Fuel Money Pledge. One at a time, these politicians have looked me in the eye and told me this. We are in a war, fighting for clean air, clean water, a livable planet. Pretty simple request. Our governor, both of our senators, our congressmen, all of them today in 2019, support big oil and gas projects in Montana, in our beautiful state. Absolutely, and this is our land, and they're taking the money from the fossil fuel industry, and then look us in the eye and tell us, we want this Keystone XL on your land. We want these big oil projects on your land. We do not care. So again, we are in a war with the United States government. Most will not agree to take the No Fossil Fuel Money Pledge, as I've said. And I know that there's some politicians here today. I probably already asked you. Please walk over to our table, sign a No Fossil Fuel Money Pledge, and stand up for us. That's the least you could do. And I see you in the crowd, politicians. Please, let's take a stance. That's simple. No more fossil fuel money. We cannot count on our politicians or our current political system to stop the greenhouse gas emissions. I hope that they prove me wrong. 200 species are going extinct every day. Millions of people are starving and having to move and dying from climate effects every year. Natural disasters are increasing at unprecedented rates and amplifying with every time that we put more greenhouse gas emissions into this atmosphere. Your children will ask you, what did you do when we had a fighting chance to stop the climate catastrophe? And we better have a damn good answer to tell them. So who is going to stop climate change? We are! Absolutely, you are and we are. We need to step up every day. This is the beginning. This is not the end. We need to step up every day, come back tomorrow, come back Monday for classes, and strike with us on Fridays. And we need to show up again and again and again, and we cannot quit until climate justice is won. It's time for a revolution.
Thank you so much, Daniel. Missoula, on Thursday in the University Center, Paul Wheaton will be talking at 9 o'clock. Excuse me, that's incorrect. I guess Paul Wheaton. No, excuse me. George Price to just highlight local activist and educator George Price on Wednesday at 12:30 in the UC Center is giving a climate change and imperialism planet in the UC Theater. Show up. George Price is amazing, and be a part of that event. Our next speaker today is Sarah.
Hi everyone. My name is Sarah Sri-Raman. I'm a student at the university. And today I'll be reading another speech by Greta Thunberg. She gave this one in January at the World Economic Forum in Davos, Switzerland. It's called Our House is on Fire. Our house is on fire. I am here to say, our house is on fire. According to the IPCC, we are less than 12 years away from not being able to undo our mistakes. In that time, unprecedented changes in all aspects of society need to have taken place, including a reduction of our CO2 emissions by at least 50%. And please note that those numbers do not include the aspect of equity, which is absolutely necessary to make the Paris Agreement work on a global scale. Nor does it include tipping points or feedback loops, like the extremely powerful methane gas released from the thawing Arctic permafrost. At places like Davos, people like to tell success stories, but their financial success has come with an unthinkable price tag. And on climate change, we have to acknowledge that we have failed. All political movements in their present form have done so, and the media has failed to create broad public awareness. But Homo sapiens have not yet failed. Yes, we are failing, but there is still time to turn everything around. We can still fix this. We still have everything in our own hands. But unless we recognize the overall failures of our current systems, we most probably don't stand a chance. We are facing a disaster of unspoken sufferings for enormous amounts of people. And now is not the time for speaking politely or focusing on what we can or cannot say. Now is the time to speak clearly. Solving the climate crisis is the greatest and most complex challenge that Homo sapiens have ever faced. The main solution, however, is so simple that even a small child can understand it. We have to stop our emissions of greenhouse gases. And either we do that or we don't. You say that nothing in life is black or white, but that is a lie, a very dangerous lie. Either we prevent a 1.5 degrees Celsius of warming, or we don't. Either we avoid setting off that irreversible chain reaction beyond human control, or we don't. Either we choose to go on as a civilization, or we don't. That is as black or white as it gets. There are no gray areas when it comes to survival. Now we all have a choice. We can create transformational action that will safeguard the living conditions for future generations, or we can continue with our business as usual and fail. That is up to you and me. Some say that we should not engage in activism. Instead, we should just leave everything to our politicians and vote for a change instead. But what do we do when there is no political will? What do we do when the politics needed are nowhere in sight? Here in Davos, just like everywhere else, everyone is talking about money. It seems that money and growth are our only main concerns. And since the climate crisis is a crisis that never once has been treated as a crisis, people are simply not aware of the full consequences from our everyday life. People are not aware that there is such a thing as a carbon budget and just how incredibly small that remaining carbon budget is. And that needs to change today. No other current challenge can match the importance of establishing a wide public awareness and understanding of our rapidly disappearing carbon budget that should and must become our new global currency and the very heart of our future and present economics. We are now at a time in history where everyone with any insight of the climate crisis that threatens our civilization and the entire biosphere must speak out in clear language, no matter how uncomfortable and unprofitable that may be. We must change almost everything in our current societies. The bigger your carbon footprint, the bigger your moral duty. The bigger your platform, the bigger your responsibility. Adults keep saying, we owe it to the young people to give them hope. But I don't want your hope. I don't want you to be hopeful. I want you to panic. I want you to feel the fear I feel every day, and then I want you to act. I want you to act as you would in a crisis. I want you to act as if our house is on fire, because it is.
Thank you so much, Sarah. That speech was incredible. On Friday, the 27th of this upcoming strike week, we're meeting again at the UC Theater to, as students and youth and concerned adults of the Missoula community, come together and celebrate the work that we've done this week. Please join us and please be there in supporting this movement. Get out there, Missoula. I'd like to welcome myself to the stage. Hello, my name is Everett, and I'm going to read a speech for you today. When President Obama stated that we had decoupled economic growth from CO2 emissions, all of the mainstream climate groups heaved a great sigh of relief. This meant they would never have to mention capitalism nor challenge the notion that we could have unlimited growth on a finite planet. It meant we would never have to put up the American way of life for negotiation. It meant we could look to a kinder, gentler, greener capitalism to save us from this predicament. We could still have robust quarterly earning reports. We would just have to give up those damn straws. The problem is, Obama was dead wrong. Decoupling is a fucking myth. This is the kind of wishful thinking that brought us to this crisis in the first place. In her book, This Changes Everything, author Naomi Klein wrote, "The real inconvenient truth is that it isn't carbon, it's capitalism." Many well-meaning liberals read those words and instantly forgot them. Surely she didn't mean changing everything. We believe the problem, as indigenous peoples around the world have been trying to tell us since colonization, runs even deeper than our political economy. We believe the real illness is the white culture's relationship to nature. But either way, we need to loosen capital's grip on our bodies and our minds. This changes everything. The exploitation of people has everything to do with the exploitation of the biosphere. Gross inequality and global injustice are symptoms of the same disease. But won't green capitalism be our savior? As author Richard Smith has demonstrated, it is a God which has failed. The dream that we can continue our obscene rate of consumption, only powered by renewable energy, turns out to be a goddamn nightmare. Threatening other equally critical planetary boundaries. And as Greta says, our house is on fire. And this changes everything. Of course, It is easier to imagine the end of life on our planet than it is the end of industrial civilization, the end of capital's rule. It turns out that colonization extends to our own imaginations and leaves us believing there is truly no alternative. We are programmed to believe new technology and innovation, driven by competition, will save us. But this is just another form of climate denial. Young people understand it is time to fight for our minds. This changes everything. We are told salvation rests on the falling price of renewables, that we need only wait till the market sorts itself out and produces a rational outcome. Yet this is another symptom of the disease, another case of our inner colonization. The price of all these things which support our lifestyle, from the biggest pickup truck to the cleanest Prius, has nothing to do with the actual cost to the planet, or to the drought-stricken farmers committing suicide, or to the migrants drowning each day in the Mediterranean Sea, or to the hundreds of species going extinct right now as I'm speaking. Those costs are buried, ignored, and nowhere reflected in the price. Sure, we want renewable energy, but not because it's cheaper. Cheaper than melted ice caps? Cheaper than bleached coral? We need to let go of those absurd logics which incentivize such perverse behavior and act. Act because it is the right thing to do, the just thing to do, and the sustainable thing to do. It has finally become fashionable to blame the crisis variously on corporate greed, sociopathic elites, brainwashed consumers, or corrupt politicians. Climate activists often talk of a broken system and look to technical fixes, legal restraints, political reforms, to shifts, upgrades, and adjustments. And sure, we want to stop the fossil fuel industry from drilling. Sure, we want cleaner energy. These will help, however briefly, in staving off the inevitable. But the system is not broken. Liberal democratic capitalism is doing exactly what it does. We don't need to fix it. We need to end it. Thank you so much, Missoula, for coming out and supporting the climate strike, the youth climate strike, the student climate strike. Next, my friend Michelle Sweeney is gonna give an awesome speech.
Hello everyone, thank you so much for being here. This is just incredibly inspiring to see how many young students and adults are here. My name is Michelle Sweeney. I'm a music student at the University of Montana, and I'm not here to speak politely at all. I'm only 20 years old. I've just barely started to experience the world, and it's fucked up that myself, along with all the other students behind me and in front of me, have to speak up and struggle for our future. So here we are, striking to disrupt the system. Our generation is finding itself punished by the adult's crime of ecocide. But we are also finding each other in mutual rejection of a perverse culture that can more easily imagine the end of the world rather than making the simple changes and sacrifices to protect it. And we say enough. We can no longer save the world by playing by the rules, and we are not here to do what the adults have wanted us to do and expect us to do every single day. We are here to take our education and our future into our own hands. If the adults of the world don't give a damn about our future enough to relinquish unnecessary conveniences and mountains of consumer crap, then we, the youth, are just going to have to force them to. We have all witnessed the power students striking against school has had. because our movement is now in the millions across the globe. And as our rage grows, these strikes will too. Our strikes are not reserved for politicians. Our strike is against our schools, the media, complicit feel-good liberal nonsense, capitalism, and our own culture. So I'm here to talk about 4 simple things. 1, our education is failing us. We, the youth, are the ones who will be most affected by the climate crisis, and yet educational leaders continue to act immorally. Our education system was designed and has continued to be complicit with reproducing the status quo, which consequently is destroying the planet. It is not preparing us for the unavoidably radical change necessary to survive. During my 4 years of high school here in Missoula, climate change was barely touched on. And now I've been working with high school students from all across the community. And for months now, I have heard and learned that they too are not learning anything about climate change like they need to be. So Missoula and educators, let me expressly state to you, you are not doing enough. Treat it like a crisis because it is. As you've heard from the courageous young people who took the stage today, we turned our backs on your thinly veiled lip service and status quo education. None of us care if the facts of climate science offends fellow students. Teach the facts and then teach the logical impossibility of a capitalist solution. It's an educator's ethical duty to teach which is verifiable, not what is ideologically neutral. This isn't Bible school. Our schools are supposed to be based in standards of evidence and reason. The university's motto is Lux et Veritas, light and truth. Apparently, there is very little light being shown on the truth because the truth is, our house is on fire and we are fucked. Without your technocratic straitjacket, we took our education into our own hands. We used our summer to work our asses off to get the authentic and realistic education we need to face the future of climate calamity. And that is what next week is for all of you, so please show up. 2, our ecological limit and capitalism are incompatible. Even a small child can see that our planet has an ecological limit, and our current economic system of capitalism cannot abide by limits to growth. So capitalism must go. Capital will always require more growth built on extraction of more resources. In the greedy interest of making ever-increasing amounts of money, Western cultures are undermining the foundations of life. We now live in a financialized world in which the power to create money is controlled by privately owned multinational banks, in which the needs of the earth that sustain us is treated as barriers to the infinite growth of our stocks of capital. The Amazon has been burning for over a month. We are burning the lungs of the earth, one of the most diverse ecosystems on our planet, for fucking cattle. Our culture is so focused on making money that we see the beautiful natural resources we have on this earth as disposable. And it's no wonder why our country, of all countries, is still struggling to understand the basic concept of climate change. Just think about how we were founded. Back then, Europe was hitting against nature's limits. They had overfished their rivers, felled their great forests, and hunted their big game. Then, when European conquerors stumbled upon the so-called New World, they thought they had hit the jackpot. They saw in the Americas a kind of supersized Europe that would never run out of resources. The original story of our country was a myth of endless nature, wilderness to be devoured without limits. And anything or anyone that stood in our way had to be removed at all costs. But now our planet is saying, hey, some of you human cultures have filled my oceans with plastics, my skies with heat-trapping gases, clear-cut my lungs, contaminated my water, and used far more than I can provide. I can't believe some of you human cultures couldn't see that I have limits. So something has to give. And I'm sure Mother Earth will adapt, but are we going to? 3, green capitalism is a false god. There are those people who do seem to appreciate these limits, like Democrats and liberal businesses and nonprofits. However, There seems to be no end in sight among these folks for coming up with absurdly inadequate solutions, or worse, false gods like green capitalism. These solutions are predicated on the impossibility of justice. Justice for all species, all human culture, and justice for our Mother Earth. The typical liberal solutions have been minor tweaks to an economy based on endless consumption and green initiatives, which obviously have not changed anything. So we have to relinquish. There's no such thing as green technology. And no, your reusable straw isn't helping anything. No, recycling isn't helping anything. It's just teaching you to consume everything that you don't need. No, electric cars aren't helpful to the environment at all. Lithium, the essential element for batteries used in many electric cars, are wreaking havoc on our planet. Is the plan to just keep extracting lithium for 7 billion people? Which brings me to my last point. We must change everything. None of this, absolutely none of this, is anywhere close to the depth of change that is required if we hope to actually pull our planet back from the brink. We need to draw down our energy and resource demands. What our world fails to recognize is that the price is not the cost. The price we pay for $3 a gallon of gas is not the cost. The cost is the 24 pounds of carbon dioxide per gallon that fossil fueled vehicles emit. You pay $50 for a wooden chair, but what is the cost? The cost of the chair is the lost wood, a lost rainforest, and an oil field that replaces that wood. The price is not the cost. Multiply that unchecked consumption by billions of people, and we all see the cautionary tale of the Lorax by Dr. Seuss. So to the adults who are here today, have you listened to the youth? Look around you. I see high school students all over. This is incredibly encouraging. And are you prepared to listen to us and actually help us? Are you ready to start listening to the science and actually give us a future that you were very fortunate to have? And everyone else, are we brave enough to disrupt business as usual? The climate crisis won't wait, and neither will we. Our house is on fire. It's about time we grab a goddamn fire hose. Thank you.
Missoula, the next speaker, Maeve, who came up and introduced and opened up the rally today, we have one last thing to share with you on stage from the students. And it's please listen. This, if anything, and if you're having a hard time dealing with associating climate change and making it tangible in your own lives, that's why we're striking today. Education is failing us, and Maeve has a letter to our top educator.
Yeah, so to wrap up, I'd like to read this letter that was composed by Missoula Climate Strike student members, directed towards Superintendent Rob Watson and MCPS educators. In solidarity with the global climate strike movement, from Friday, September 20th to Friday, September 27th, we will be striking every day. After that, we will go on to strike one Friday per month and increase our pressure if needed to force a change in our schools. When students strike against schools, they further threaten the legitimacy of an already rapidly crumbling society and the education system that reproduces it. Despite the overwhelming scientific consensus that our future is hurtling towards catastrophe, our education seems more interested in preparing us to compete in a labor market that will soon be stranded, like all assets, by climate change. It is absurd that we students are supposed to sit, listen, and put our trust into what is being taught while the world around us unravels. With a future of climate chaos and an education system acting like everything is business as usual, we cannot believe the burden of demanding an appropriate education is left to us. So, our strike says we refuse to just sit and listen any longer. It says we reject a curriculum designed to reproduce the same system destroying our planet. It says our future is being stolen from us and we will not comply. It says we demand knowledge which helps us confront the many crises of our generation, the many crises our generation has been left with. Perhaps we should be thankful our education is so unethical and complicit because it has driven us to find real answers outside of our schools. Learning and taking inspiration from Greta Thunberg and the hundreds of thousands of young people striking against their schools, we can confidently say we are actually learning quite a lot on our own. We are not just being schooled in what you and the American public education system have designed. Instead, we are learning to ask questions through our rejection of institutional public education. Why is our supposedly democratic government so obviously complicit with profit instead of the stewardship of the living world? Why aren't we being taught the reasons for such unequal development and unequal responsibility for the crisis? Why are we being taught to confuse schooling for learning? In an ethical education which appreciates justice, what things should we be learning? Instead of being passively obedient to this system, why aren't they taking risks to fight? That was actually hilarious. Why aren't they taking risks to fight for our future? We feel it would be even more absurd to be punished by the very schools entrusted to prepare us for the world we did not make, but we will willingly accept the consequences and will not compromise for half measures. You should accept this difficult conclusion we made to strike and work with us to develop a meaningful curriculum which gives Missoula students the knowledge and skills we need to solve this crisis. We are saddened to learn as our educational leader, you are directing the district to be viewpoint neutral. It's unethical to ride the fence as a leader who should be boldly educating young people facing probable ecological collapse as opposed to protecting a political impossibility of neutrality. You need to immediately reconsider your role in helping to defend the status quo and sealing our chaotic and uncertain fate out of some obligation to tradition and culture. Step up or stand the fuck aside. Despite your absurd claim that teaching climate change is a curriculum standard, none of us feel this is reflected in our experience inside your schools. Every subject area should be directed to explore climate change as the only context in which our learning is embedded. From redefining democracy to permaculture agate to zero carbon cooking classes, especially since this crisis changes everything. Perhaps your gamble is to wait us out, to hope this moment will just go away and to assume students will just not care enough to stick to this strike, and perhaps you are right. Are you preparing for the case that you are wrong? Wrong about our capacity to assess you and your performance of ethical leadership, wrong about this strike, wrong about youth today, wrong about the future. In closing, we wonder if it ever occurred to you why your generation back in your day did not strike against the same school system and lack of action that has brought about the extremely unjust world you are handing off to us, that you are pushing onto us. It's a shame if you haven't. And it is doubly a shame if you continue to leave this burden of courage and leadership to our generation. We guess the best we can hope for is that this is all a test or some new approach to learning that you brought to MCPS, in which you are seeing if given a nearly impossible task, our generation will rise to the occasion while others don't lift a finger. Because that's the reality either way. Thank you.
Missoula, you showed up. That's the first step. This is only the beginning. We are striking for an entire week. Our education system is failing us. Please, I have a request of the students who are in the audience right now to join the Missoula Climate Strike youth students and young adults on stage. Please, all of you, quickly join us on stage. Adults, a round of applause for these youth activists. Welcome. It's time to act. It's time to get out there and make a difference, make a change. It needs to happen now. And hopefully by now, you understand something. And if not, we'll try to help you one more time. Our house is on fire. Missoula, this changes everything. Thank you so much. Adults, there is so much information for you to learn and extract about how you can help us organize and make effective changes in our community. Please, get your asses over there right now. Let's learn. Hell yeah, Missoula students.
Climate action now!